Welcome to another PLANTSTRONG Snackables episode with my co-host and head of product innovation for PLANTSTRONG Foods, Jessica Hegarty. She truly is the healthy ingredient heroine. Today we're going to change things up a bit on the Snackables podcast, giving you little bites on plant-based politics, finance, and chemistry. Yes, chemistry. In addition to the standard product recommendations, recipes, and demos. In this episode, Jess and I will be discussing all things alternative milks, their tremendous growth, the challenges they're facing, and tips for how to choose from the incredible variety of options in your local grocery store. It is beyond nutty right now. And then we're going to wrap up with a simple demonstration for how you can make a truly whole food plant-based milk, no filtering or straining required. Now, one clarification for today's episode, we're going to talk about plant-based milk options and make a few recommendations, like a company called Elmhurst. And there's also a company called Oatly. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's the rage right now. A Swedish oat milk brand that went public recently and is taking the world by storm. Be on the lookout for one of their fat-free versions. It's the only one in the assortment that is free from processed oils. All right, let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of PLANTSTRONG Snackables. I'm Rip Esselstyn. This is Jessica Hegarty. And we got a doozy for you today, so fasten those seatbelts. But this is where Jess and I we chew and we, what's the word I'm looking for? Dish. We chew and we dish on all things related to food, primarily plant-strong foods. So for starters, Jess, did you have a good weekend?
I did, yeah. You know, I went to Casa de Luz again and again, Barton Springs, enjoying the summer. What about you?
Iconic Austin. Had a great one. What I want to ask you is, what's the most number of ears of corn you've ever had in one sitting?
My personal record is probably something closer to 3, but I know that it's a common food in eating competitions. What's your record, Rip?
Well, I'm sure it's probably, I've never actually been an eating corn record, but I'm sure I've had a dozen,
Oh my gosh.
But I love corn, and the Esselstyns love corn. But there's nothing like summer sweet corn. And the reason I bring that up to you is because I've got a mountain biking partner. His name is Tim Turway. And he went to Davenport, Iowa last week. And while he was there, he brought back a present of 6 ears of corn that he proudly presented to me yesterday. And he said, Rip, this isn't just any old corn. This is peaches and cream corn. It came from LeClaire, Iowa. It's made in small batches on small farms. He got it from a little roadside stand, a kid named Ryan, who was selling it out of the back of his truck. And it's this tender heirloom, really special corn. And I was like, oh, it sounds amazing. It's it has these bicolor kernels. Each bite has 2 distinct flavors. But we grilled it up, and then we had 6. And the kids weren't enthusiastic about it. Jill was. I had 5.
Good for you.
Jill had 1. But I'd never heard of a peaches and cream heirloom, varietal, corn before. But if you're ever in LeClaire, Iowa, right, go find a guy named Ryan and buy these. They are phenomenal.
Oh my gosh, was it sweeter and creamier than your average corn?
It was just like a wonderful summer sweet corn on steroids.
Oh my gosh, it sounds amazing.
Yeah,
it sounds amazing.
It was. So now that we're in the heart of summertime, I thought I'd just let you know how much I love that corn.
Oh my gosh,
crazy.
Sounds amazing.
The other thing is I was shopping this morning, getting ready for the episode, buying some different, plant-based milks, and I came across this.
Oh boy.
And it's just some strawberries, right? And these are organic strawberries from the Koch farm. They're grown in San Juan Bautista, California. But the reason I was so enamored with these is look at the packaging, right? I mean, and don't those look wonderful?
They do. They're beautiful, and it's cardboard, not plastic.
Not plastic. And so I was just so enamored with that I wanted to buy it, and I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention because, we're at a place in time right now where we all have to basically collectively work on being more environmentally conscientious.
Absolutely. And I assume that's compostable. Does it say it on the back maybe? I mean, it's cardboard with very little ink on it, so I assume so. Yeah. But that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Koch Farms in California.
No wax, no plastic, no labels. Please recycle. Yeah.
Amazing.
Ready recyclable.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So with that, let's dive in today. So I know you've been doing your research for today's episode. When Jess digs into a topic, watch out. But we're going to talk about plant-based milks. I mean, what is a plant-based person to do in 2021 when you have such an amazing oasis of options before you? What is the most environmentally friendly? What is the tastiest? What's the healthiest? Because I just don't know what to make of it all.
Absolutely. We are literally sitting here surrounded by options that we picked up, you and I collectively. And there's a lot, there's so many options out there. And so we want to talk about what to be on the lookout for in terms of ingredients and how to pick the alternative milk that's right for you.
And here's the thing I gotta say, and that is, when I started going plant-based back in the late 1980s, literally you had soy milk and you had rice milk, and that was it. And now I think they're making milks out of just about every. Black bean milk, why not?
Sure.
Pinto bean milk, why not?
Yeah, definitely. Well, Rip, I'm so excited for today's episode. I've been thinking about it for weeks, and I have a lot of information that I'm eager to share. But the reason we're talking about alternative milks here and now is because our listeners are going to need it to go with their...
Well... Rip's Big Bowl cereal?
Woo! It's coming back! It's coming back, and it's coming back soon. Really soon. So we are excited. And as I said, we do have a lot of options today. So since we don't have Rip's Big Bowl cereal to do the sampling, I thought it would be nice to enjoy today's Snackables episode with milk and cookies. So we'll be testing a few of these plant-based milks, and since two of our granolas are inspired by cookies, we've got the classic oatmeal raisin and the tahini chocolate chip. I thought it would be fun to use them in taste testing. Sound good?
Sounds like a blast.
Awesome. So before we get started, I have to do a shout out for those who ordered granolas and participated in the survey we sent out. Thank you so much. You make my job easier. We got so many responses. Our audience is just unbelievable. And in this survey, we included a question about what granola flavor should we do next. We have 4 SKUs out there. We were thinking about a 5th. And it sounds like our customers are most interested in lemon blueberry scone as the next flavor. Sounds good, right? And this was actually a suggestion from John Fitzgerald, one of our PlantStrong team members. So thanks, John, for your creative brilliance. And in the poll, we did leave a write-in recommendation. So if you had an idea for a flavor, you could write it in. Would you like to hear some suggestions from our community?
I would love to hear the creative juices flowing.
Yes. So there were lots of ideas for pies. We heard cherry, pecan. There was a key lime, which I think sounds interesting, right? Peanut butter was another common theme. I saw peanut butter and jelly sandwich, peanut butter cup, and then some tropical flavors like a pineapple upside down cake, mango habanero. Isn't that good? Like a sweet and spicy. So thank you, listeners.
I don't think that. I like the mango, but you lost me with the habanero.
No.
It's associated with that one.
No, but not a good combination.
Yeah.
So we're going to toy around with R&D and see what shakes out. So be on the lookout for that. But today we're here to talk about alternative milks, and I wanted to start with a story, a memorable moment from the immersion that I attended, your immersion that I attended in 2018. And I had the opportunity to have a one-on-one discussion with Dr. Doug Lisle, who wrote The Pleasure Trap and a number of other things, and is a plant-based advocate. I think he works for True North, right?
Yeah, he's a brilliant evolutionary psychologist, and he's been part of our immersion program team now for about 7 years.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I was so grateful to talk to him. And while you're at the immersions, you're getting all of this information about health, and you just want to share it with your friends. You want to tell people about it because it's so profound.
And specifically, Doug has a whole lecture called Getting Along Without Going Along.
Yes.
Right? That is absolutely brilliant. Go
ahead. What does that mean? No, what is the getting along without going along? What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, basically, it's a way of overcoming all the objections that people are going to throw at you when they find out that you're doing something as ridiculous as going plant-based without upsetting the apple cart.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. People get very defensive about their food choices.
Yeah. And so Doug basically gives you 4 different rebuttals to handle the people that say, well, where do you get your protein, and why are you doing something as crazy as this? And maybe in another episode we can talk about what those look like.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. The question I had for Doug is, with everything that I'm hearing today about meat and eating more vegetables and removing oil and avoiding dairy, what's the one thing I should focus on when I'm talking to friends and family? What's the one thing for my friends who have kids, what's the one thing I should tell them? And he said 4 words: get them off dairy. So that was the low-hanging fruit of, if you can do one thing to help out a friend and family member, get them off dairy, which is why I'm so glad to see all these alternative milk products. So why do you think that's so important? Why do you think that was his answer?
Well, it's multifold, actually. I mean, children, there's a very strong link between type 1 diabetes and the consumption of dairy products at a younger age, because those undigested amino acids actually pass through the semi-permeable membrane of our intestines. And then our bodies actually see these as a kind of an invader. And so we go in and we inadvertently, by killing off these undigested amino acids in the cow milk, it's like this friendly fire now goes upstream and actually attacks our pancreatic beta cells that are basically a mirror image of these undigested cow's milk amino acids. And now basically you have a pancreas that is not working properly.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that's Doug's big thing is, with children, that's not fair. And then of course we have the litany of reasons why we're not fans of cow's milk or dairy products. We can start with the casein that comprises 86% of the protein in dairy products. That is really, it's a growth accelerator, and it's put there by the mother cow to grow the baby cow as fast as possible. And it, by consuming all these cheese, yogurt, ice cream, cow's milk, we're unwittingly basically fertilizing dormant tumor and cancer cells. So that's the big thing there. And of course, it's loaded with saturated fat. It's it's loaded with cholesterol. It's just like I say on some of my former podcasts and some of my talks, it's kind of a different form of meat. So we have runny meat, we have liquid meat, we've got hardened meat, all that stuff. So if that doesn't make you want to gag, I don't know what will.
And it's highly addictive too, right?
Because of the casomorphines.
Yeah,
which they're like low levels of opiates that are there in the mother's milk, for good reason, to keep the baby cow from drifting too far from mama.
Totally.
But, it's so bizarre when you think about it that we are the only mammals that drink another mammal's milk. And not only, as infants, but as adults.
It's a little strange, right? When you think about it.
Yeah, a little strange. Yeah.
Well, look at all these options we have in front of us. There's soy milk, almond, coconut, oat milk, rice milk, hemp flax. Feels like any nut, seed, or grain that you can think of. You can pulverize it and make a milk out of it.
You can milk it.
You can milk it. What's the strangest alternative milk you've seen on the market?
For me, it is probably when I saw flaxseed milk.
Yeah.
I was like, really? You can actually somehow get enough, squeeze enough out of a flaxseed to get a milk? It just seemed kind of nutty to me. And then I'll tell you the strangest tasty one that I've had.
Oh boy. Boy. Okay.
I don't know if you want that now or later.
Go for it.
Yeah. To me, the hemp milk. The hemp milk to me is just got a taste where I was like, you got to be kidding me.
It's a little strange. It's
a little unappealing to me. So, yeah, not a fan.
I have a mild hemp oat option that I'd like you to try here in a little bit.
Okay.
Have you tried pea milk, like green pea milk? Have you seen this?
I haven't tried it, only because I'm assuming that it doesn't actually come from whole peas. It probably comes from
powder.
Pea protein powder, right? So, and I steer clear of that.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find a really good, clean, oil-free option in pea milks. Not to say that they're not out there. Have you tried banana milk? Mooala is the brand. Have you seen this in Whole Foods?
So I've never tried a commercialized version of banana milk, but I make my banana milk all the time. And I even got a recipe for banana milk in the Engine 2 diet.
Oh, what? I didn't know that.
From 2009.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, here's the last one. And you were talking about your peaches and cream corn.
Yeah.
Evan and I actually just came up with it on our own because we love corn so much. We're like, let's try corn milk. And we tried it one time. It was absolutely delicious. Sweet, creamy, buttery. We put a little bit of salt in it, of course. It was absolutely delicious. And of course, we'll share that recipe with our listeners.
Well, stop the presses. I think PLANTSTRONG needs to come up with a corn milk.
Nobody's doing it. I haven't found one on the market.
Peaches and cream corn milk.
Oh my gosh. Sounds good to me. So one thing I wanted to draw your attention to is that around the world, many of these plant-based milk brands are facing controversy about the way that they label their products. So the dairy industry argues that the word milk on packaging is confusing to customers.
It hasn't. I feel like that's been out in the airwaves for years.
Yes, it has. So have you heard of something called the Dairy Pride Act?
Dairy Pride Act. Have no idea.
Let me tell you about it. So the Dairy Pride Act originally proposed in 2017, so it's been out for a number of years, but it was back on the table in 2021, would require that non-dairy products made from nuts, seeds, plants, etc. no longer be confusingly mislabeled, their words, with dairy terms such as milk, yogurt, or cheese. And in this bill, they cite that Americans aren't meeting the recommended daily intake of dairy, right? Yep. Thank goodness, because I think it's like 3 servings of dairy. And also in the bill, they cite that consumers know that dairy products provide key nutrients necessary for child development and adult health. However, the labeling of plant-based alternative as, quote, milk conveys a nutritional equivalency that is not accurate. To which I say, yeah, they're not nutritionally equivalent. Thank goodness.
Right.
Right.
I think they're grabbing at straws here.
Totally.
I mean, gosh.
And what a diss to the customer to say that it's confusing to them, right?
Well, and the other thing, getting 3 servings of dairy a day. I mean, I could be completely wrong here, but my understanding is that as Americans, we're probably far exceeding that with all the ice cream and the yogurts and the milk that's out there and cheese. I mean, I bet you we're getting more like 5 or 6.
Yep, I think you're right, Rip. But I understand why the dairy industry is kind of shaking in their boots, right? Because everybody's starting to drink alternative milks. Sales alone last year hit $2.5 billion. And that's up 20% versus the prior year. So plant-based milks have been growing, and they're continuing to do so. And they're prying market share away from traditional dairy. Right now, plant-based milks make up 15% of the total market share.
15%. So that to me, like if I was to go, again, because I think we shop at more like natural grocery stores for the most part. I feel like they represent at least 50%. You know,
Yeah.
when I look at the yogurts, when I look at the well, maybe it's the
Number of SKUs in the assortment is
Yeah.
like 50%. I think you're absolutely right. I've seen that with yogurt. I've seen that with milks as well. And it seems like ice cream's starting to expand in the frozen section.
Although I will say, so we went on vacation a couple weeks ago to Wisconsin, and we went to the equivalent of their like Piggly Wiggly, and they had one plant-based milk offering. I think it was an almond milk in the refrigerated section, and that was it.
Wow.
So I think it depends on the part
Where
of the
you're
country
at.
you're into.
I know, we're in our Austin bubble, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, I know we don't typically talk politics on Snackables, but this information was so interesting to me. And it's not the only controversy in the alternative milk world right now.
Ooh, what else is?
So, Oatly, my favorite oat milk brand, went public in May of this year, and I was so excited because I really like to support plant-based brands, and publicly traded options are few and far between. I really only know of Beyond Meat and then like Mission Avocado. Like those are the two, right? So Oatly coming out was a big deal for me. And
Do you actually own some Oatly?
I do. So there's an app called Robinhood that I've downloaded, and then you can securely transfer money from your bank account and then buy stocks. So right now Oatly's at like $18 a share. You could transfer $18 over and buy a share of Oatly.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
So it's 18 now. What's been the high? What's been the low? Do you know?
I think it got up to like low 20s, maybe hit 24, was hovering around 22. So it's dipped a little bit. And there's a reason why, actually.
Is this a buying opportunity or not?
I think so. And last year for Christmas, I love getting stocks for kids because I think plant-based is the future, right? I fully expect it to grow. Last year we got our nieces and nephews Oatly stock, or Beyond Meat stock.
Yeah.
And so this year they're going to get Oatly stock. I hope they're not listening. But it might be time to do some Christmas shopping in the summertime because, Oatly is down. And the reason why is a few weeks back, a hedge fund wrote a 124-page scathing report about Oatly. And one thing I'd like to add about the hedge fund that published this, they actually were shorting Oatly. So you can buy stocks or you can short stocks. And if you want me to give a little bit of a tidbit about that.
So when you're shorting it, you're basically betting that it's going to go down in price. So that sounds like a bit of a conflict of interest.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it? So they said that oat milk is a fad. It's, not going to stay as popular. It's just what's hot right now. They accused Oatly of intentionally creating scarcity. So like, not producing as much as they could so that they have out of stock. So it seems like it's, hard to get. I find that hard to believe as, people in the plant-based retail world. If we can sell it, we want to sell it and capture that revenue. I don't think Oatly would be trying to do that.
Yeah.
They were accused of accounting shenanigans, which sounds scary. But when you shenanigans, right? You don't want to hear that. But when you look into it, it's actually that their financial forecasts were really optimistic. So they thought they were going to sell a lot of Oatly. I don't know if I call that shenanigans.
Well, but was it like, I want to say it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago where I heard that was it a Bartista, right, was using Oatly and the oat milk. Barista. Thank you. Every barista was using Oatly's oat milk because it performed so well in that environment.
Absolutely. Oatly kind of gained popularity. It started off at like the fancy coffee shops in New York City, and then customers were asking, where can I get this? And so it came, from Sweden to the US. It's been around for 25 years, right? It just wasn't popular. Came over from Sweden, and Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, is actually an investor in Oatly. So that kind of tells you how it performs with coffee, right?
Well, what's interesting, so if you remember, we had some Engine 2 almond milks. Right? We had an original, we had a vanilla. And then because oat milk has always been my favorite once I discovered oat milk, at least 12, 15 years ago, the Pacific brand, I was like, let's do an Engine 2 oat milk because it was authentic and it resonated with me. And the manufacturer that we were looking to partner with was Oatly. And this is probably 7 years ago. And for a number of reasons, it never actually worked out. But they were fantastic.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, what a crazy story. Oh, we might be a different world if that had worked out. But yeah, oat milk is great. It's one of the most environmentally friendly options out there. And I love the brand. I think Oatly is the tastiest on the market. And trust me, I've tasted nearly all of them. And it just wins again and again.
Do you know?
I have some theories. That we can get into here in a second. But yeah, Oatly stock is down. I think right now it's at $18. So I'm gonna do some Christmas shopping. And yeah, keep my fingers crossed. Of course, Oatly is rejecting all the claims that are coming from this hedge fund with the conflict of interest. So yeah.
So you mentioned the environment. Do you want to talk about the environment?
Sure, Rip. So, one of the questions I hear a lot is, what is the most environmentally friendly alternative milk? And so I have a ranking here going from least environmentally friendly to most. But before we dive in, I want to make sure our listeners know that one thing is clear. All alternative milks are far better for the planet than dairy. All of them. So if I'm kind of poo-pooing, almond milk for one reason or another, it's still better than dairy alternatives.
Yeah. So can you put that into perspective by giving us how much water is used in cow's milk?
Sure. So for example, almond is lowest on the environmental ranking here, and it's because it requires more water than any other dairy alternative. So it takes about 130 pints of water to produce a single glass of almond milk. But that's still half as much as traditional dairy. Some studies say it's 2.5 times the amount of water from almond milk is required to make dairy milk.
Right.
So pretty significant. It's not the best for bees. It's really hard on them, right? These pollinators are working really hard to pollinate the almond trees, and that puts a lot of strain on the colonies. So for that reason, it's ranking kind of low. Also at the bottom is coconut, which is less relevant to our audience, right? Since probably aren't using coconut milk. Here at PLANTSTRONG, we want to steer clear of that, right?
It's true. And if you let me just dive in there for a sec. And like, for example, one of these, where's our coconut milk? I think it might be right over here.
We got one. Where is it?
No, is it over there?
Oh, is it this one? Right here. With the lemon poppy seed muffin recipe on the back.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the thing with coconut milk is it's going to be at least 50% fat, depending upon the variety, and most of it is saturated fat. Right? So it's very, very high in saturated fat because, as I think we know, the coconut fat is 90% saturated fat typically. So we're not fans of saturated fat because of the preponderance of the peer-reviewed research that really links it to heart disease, insulin resistance, cancer, and some of these things. So so we're not a fan of coconut milk.
It makes sense. And environmentally, in some ways, it's a pretty good choice. It has a low impact on the land, low water usage, but most coconuts are grown in Indonesia, the Philippines, India. So, of course, there's the transportation to get them over here to the U.S. And another reason for their low ranking is questionable human rights issues. So many farmers don't earn enough money for themselves and their family. So if you are consuming coconut milk, make sure you're looking for those fair trade certified options. All right, next, rice milk.
Yep.
It is a water guzzler. Has a huge water footprint. It's also associated with higher greenhouse gas emissions. And, it was one of my favorites growing up, but it's actually really hard to find a good oil-free, unsweetened option.
I was just going to say, I've never been able to find a rice milk that doesn't have oil.
Yep, I don't know that they're out there, and there's a lot of fertilizers used, and Those can pollute nearby waterways. So if you're going to purchase a rice milk because that's your favorite, I would say make sure it's organic.
Yeah.
Hazelnut milk, starting to get better. Hazelnuts are environmentally superior to almonds since they get pollinated by wind rather than bees. They also grow in more moist environments like the Pacific Northwest, not Southern California like most almonds. And, you know, there's more water in the Pacific Northwest, right? California is facing droughts, etc. So hazelnut milk is a better option. Soy is actually a great option for the environment. Low greenhouse gas, efficient land use, the lowest water consumption of any of the alternative milks I found out there, just barely beating out oats, just barely. But the primary environmental drawback to soy milk is that soybeans are grown in massive quantities around the world to feed livestock, for meat, for dairy, right? So, you know, there is some land use issues there. So many soybeans are grown.
Right. And they're probably, most of those are probably genetically modified too.
Exactly. So if you're going to drink soy milk, which we recommend that you do, make sure it's made from organic soybeans, and if you can find it, grown in the U.S.
Yeah.
And the winner for the most environmentally friendly alternative milk?
Ding, ding, ding.
Oat milk. Much like soy, oat milk appears to have less of a carbon footprint than many of the other options out there. It requires 1/6 the amount of water of almond milk. Pretty amazing, right? It's also known as a low input crop. So when it's grown in rotation, oats create crop diversity that reduce soil erosion and help lower the risk of other plant diseases.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, you did your homework on that. That's
Thanks.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I wanted to give a good ranking. All right, question number 2.
Yes.
What's the healthiest type of alternative milk? And again, it depends on what your meaning of your definition of health is, right? What would you say? What's your favorite? What do you think ranks?
I would say it would have to be probably an unsweetened variety, for the most part, of either a soy or a almond or an oat.
Yeah, something really clean, right?
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about how to pick alternative milks and what to be on the lookout for. If I had to pick one, I'd say soy milk.
Yeah.
I'd say soy milk. It's the only alternative, the mainstream alternative milk that's made from beans. And we know how healthy beans are for us.
Yeah. To me, it depends what you're after. So like for most of us, we don't need to worry about protein, right? If anything, if you listen to the podcast I had with Darren O'Lean, we talked about how actually we should be eating like a low protein diet, right? As opposed to a high protein, low protein. And if you don't care about protein, then you're not going to be drawn as much to maybe soy milks. Like this Eden soy right here, this unsweetened Eden soy, 1 8-ounce glass is 12 grams.
12 grams of protein.
12 grams of
Wow.
protein. It's like over the moon high. Whereas this almond milk right here, this has got 1 gram
Yep.
of protein right there.
Yeah, I think soy milk's the only one that really competes with traditional dairy in terms of soy. So if you're choosing traditional dairy for the protein content, opt for some soy milk. If protein is less important to you, go for another one.
Yeah.
Great. So speaking of soy, what's everyone afraid of when it comes to soy consumption, Rip? Why does it get such a bad rap?
Well, you know, if you're a woman, you think that it's got estrogens that are going to promote breast cancer. If you're a male, you think it's basically, you know, you don't want estrogens because you're going to grow man boobies or your testicles will shrivel up. And really what we discovered is that none of that really has any merit to speak of, especially when we're talking whole soy. So when you eat soy in its natural state, as close to grown as possible. So we're talking about edamame, we're talking about tofu, tempeh, miso, and then of course soy milk, where it's not soy protein isolates or concentrates, but it's whole soybeans like this Eden soy or the West soy. That is something we can get behind. And here's the thing that I think you're looking for, is that what we now know is that they're actually isoflavones. Okay, so these phytoestrogens that are actually isoflavones, they actually can regulate the hormonally active compounds in us by blocking these estrogen receptors. It's absolutely brilliant. So it does just the opposite of the myths that are floating around out there, that it's going to raise my estrogen levels. No, the reality is it will regulate them, and if anything, it will lower them.
That is so crazy to me. And I remember seeing the Game Changers talked about that. I thought that was one of the best sound bites to come out of the movie. Is it doesn't raise your estrogen, it actually blocks estrogen absorption from other food sources.
And then to me the biggest irony is that the highest, basically, I should say probably the number one way that Americans are getting estrogens in their diets is from dairy products, because that lactating cow's estrogen levels go up 33-fold, and now you're consuming that cow's milk, that cow's yogurt, that cow's cheese, the ice cream that's loaded, right, with not only IGF-1s, insulin growth factor number 1, but also with these estrogens. So
the irony is amazing.
Yeah.
The irony is amazing. And I was actually wondering, do you think Big Dairy could be promoting this misinformation about estrogen in soy? No.
Well,
Never mind. No conspiracy theories on Plant Strong snackables. No.
yeah, right.
Well, what I was doing was I wanted to taste test. We have 2 brands here with us today.
Yeah.
Eden Soy's unsweetened soy milk and West Soy's unsweetened soy milk. And the reason we like these is because both of them have 2 ingredients. They are just
water and whole soybeans, right?
water and soybeans.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Both of them are organic. So let's do this once and for all. Okay, this one here is the Eden soy, and this one here is the West soy. And do a back-to-back and see what we think. And what I'm looking for in a soy milk is I don't want a super soy taste. I want something mild and neutral. Let's see.
So this is the Eden on the outside.
I tried the West soy first.
Oh, that's the West soy. Okay.
West soy. Oh, no, here's your West soy.
Oh, here's my West soy.
It's great, creamy.
Yep.
Pretty mild.
Yep.
All right, let's compare it to the Eden. Ooh, interesting. They do have different flavors.
Maybe it's me, and maybe it's because one's refrigerated and one's not.
Yeah.
But the Eden soy to me has a smell as I'm putting it up into my mouth.
I notice it. It's not terribly off-putting, but it is a smell.
And the smell to me is kind of a little bit like eggs, which to me is a little bit off-putting.
Yes. Okay, I'm getting that. I'm getting that.
It's kind of like scrambled eggs.
I don't disagree.
Whereas this one, I don't have any kind of a odor as I'm putting it up.
Agreed. The West soy has no odor contributor.
Yeah. You'll have to, if you guys want to do this at home, do it and then let us know if you agree.
Yeah, let us know which ones are your favorite. So I mentioned that we'd be trying to give some information as to how to evaluate alternative milks when you're standing in the supermarket, how to pick, what to look out for. Number 1, of course, is oil. For those living a plant-strong lifestyle, the first thing we want to be on the lookout for is those added oils. And that's how most brands are getting that creamy milk-like mouthfeel. You have to be really vigilant. It's in everything.
Yeah, I'm just picking up these this morning, I'm seeing rapeseed oil. I'm seeing
safflower oil.
Safflower oil. I'm seeing canola oil. I think those are the 3 biggies that I'm seeing in most milks.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not seeing olive oil in the milks.
No, I haven't seen that.
What? You know why? Why no olive oil?
Why no coconut oil? No, just kidding. So the second thing I'd encourage folks to be on the lookout for is extra ingredients, right? We want to keep it really simple. I try to find options that are free from all those unnecessary thickeners, gums, emulsifiers, right? I think about carrageenan, which comes from seaweed. There's some evidence that says it's okay, some evidence that says it's not. I want to be safe, so I'll try to stay away.
It's really a fancy name for Irish moss, and it has a cousin called polygenin that in some tests they did with rats specifically at really high levels, it gave them cancer. But I think that the research with carrageenan is completely different, but it's got a bad rap.
It does. It really
bad
does. Yep. It contributes to leaky gut is what some of the evidence says. It's inflammatory. So if you can get it without it, why not? And there are a lot of brands without it. So one of my favorite brands I brought today, I brought the standard almond milk and the ultra creamy cashew.
Are we going to try any of that?
Absolutely. Rip, can you read the ingredients on the cashew for me?
So the cashew, I don't even know where to start here because it's so ridiculous. Ready?
Yes.
Filtered water. Cashews. Period.
Nice. I've got the almond milk here. Filtered water.
Yeah.
Almonds. Period. Exactly. You want to? Yeah. Cheers. Let's test them out here.
Are we just going to go right from the? Are you going to go into your?
Can you carefully do it? Can you carefully pour?
No. So I'm gonna empty one out completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my gosh, and it's not
so creamy. It's very creamy. That one.
Yeah. So this is 130 calories per 8 ounces, 10 grams of fat. Of course, it's coming from those. Let's see. This one is the cashews. That's nice.
Very creamy, right?
That's
Wouldn't
nice.
that be great in like a sauce? So yeah, I wanted to talk about this. The almond milk, I'm looking at this as well. 130 calories, 11 grams of fat. But again, it's coming from the nuts.
Yeah.
And when you compare this to another brand, like we've got Almond Breeze over there, 30 calories, 2.5 grams of fat. Still a really high fat to calorie ratio.
Yeah.
But the difference is that brand is diluted a little bit more with water. This is a little bit creamier. So I say, this brand's a premium, right? You're going to pay somewhere between $5 and $6 for a container.
Yep.
But you're not paying for a bunch of extra water. So I think this is a great deal. If it's too creamy for you, you can always thin it out.
Yeah. One of the things that, and I'm saying this because, and I'm not promoting it, is we have a Nutrimilk at home, and it's this machine, and you can just throw whatever nut you want, water. If you want to sweeten it, you can add in a date or two, a little vanilla extract, and you've got excuse me, and you've got homemade plant-based milk, and you know exactly what's in it. That feels good to me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, I don't know if you want to pour that into here and then try the almond milk, but one thing that I love...
I already did it.
Oh, you did? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So one thing that I love about this brand, Elmhurst, is it used to be a dairy farm, actually, and they saw the trends over the decades about how dairy consumption was declining and actually pivoted and now do exclusively plant-based milks. They call themselves the dairy that gave up dairy, which I think is really cute.
That's brilliant, and good for Elmhurst. And they're out of New York somewhere, too, I
Yes,
think.
yes, they are. They are. And you're starting to be able to purchase it. It was only in regional Whole Foods, but now it's starting to gain some traction. So excited for them. They also, speaking of unusual alternative milks, they had a peanut milk in their assortment.
Wow.
I saw it online. I couldn't find it in stores, but it sounds like something I'd want to try. So,
I wonder if it tastes like peanut butter.
I wonder too. It would be great in some peanut butter recipes. That would be wonderful. Speaking of peanut butter recipes, another thing you want to look out for when you're choosing an alternative milk is sweeteners, right? Of course, we want to find those unsweetened options. We don't want anything with sugar or cane sugar or, agave, what have you. But just because you don't see any sugar or sweeteners on the label doesn't mean your body isn't feeling the effects of sugar from some of these milks.
Are you going to burst my bubble here?
I'm so sorry, Rip. I have a juicy bit of information that was actually born from a question you asked about a year ago. Do you remember what the question was?
I think I do. I think it was related to the Pacific brand oat milk, because it is what I've been drinking for a long time. And I couldn't understand how it could have 17 grams of sugar when there was no sugar in the ingredients.
Yeah, so it says in the nutrition
So I
fact
thought it was just
panel-
naturally occurring. That was
From the oats.
From the oats. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. So again, you see 17 grams of added sugar in the nutrition fact panel, but no sugar in the ingredients.
Yeah.
Why is this sweet? And when you look at how Pacific Oat brand actually compares to other brands, your typical almond milk, store brand almond milk is going to have 0 grams of sugar, the unsweetened almond milk. A soy milk is going to range between 1 and 3 grams. I think West Soy has 3 grams of sugar. Oat milks, you see a range of like 4 to 7 grams of sugar per serving. Generally, Oatly's sitting right at 7. And then Pacific is off the charts at 17.
Yeah, something doesn't pass the sniff test. There,
Right.
does it?
Well, Rip, that mystery has been solved. We found out that oat milk producers actually use enzymes to convert oat starch into sugars. So they're taking the complex carbohydrates from the oats and breaking them down into simple sugars, namely glucose, which is sugar,
Yep.
and maltose, which is malt sugar. And guess what? They don't have to list the enzyme as an ingredient, so that's why you don't see it in there.
Yeah, there's no enzyme in
There's
there.
no enzyme. You would see like an amylase or something like that. Enzymes actually qualify as a processing aid and therefore do not need to be disclosed in the ingredients list according to the FDA.
That seems a little slippery.
A little slippery. I agree. So if you drink this, I think you're likely to see the same blood sugar spike, the same insulin response as if you were drinking a sweetened oat milk. So just something to consider.
Another thing, I think just for our listeners, when we say something's got 8 grams of sugar in it or 16 grams, just so you can put that into perspective, there's 4 grams in a teaspoon. So just divide it by 4. So if there's 16 divided by 4, there's 4 teaspoons in that. That Coca-Cola that's got 39 grams of sugar, we'll round it up to 40. It's got 10 teaspoons of sugar.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, fun fact, I thought this was interesting. In doing my research, I found that Oatly used to claim that their milks had no added sugar in their advertisements.
Yeah.
But they were actually challenged by Campbell's, as in Campbell's Soup, who's the parent company of Pacific Oat Milk.
Yeah.
They alleged that they were misleading customers. And so Oatly voluntarily removed this claim from their marketing. Yep. I think that's fair.
So do you think that was Oatly using the enzymes too?
I think Oatly is probably using an enzyme. They have about 7 grams of sugar per serving. So, and they list it right here, 7 grams of added sugars. So they're a little sweet, but significantly less sweet.
Let me see, does this actually have sugar in the ingredients?
No way, Jose. Not in Oatly.
So I guess my question then is, with something that is made from just oats and water, how much sugar is in there? Naturally occurring sugar.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out.
We'll find out. So I think all of the milks we've talked about thus far, I think they could be a little bit healthier. And let me plead my case here. If you think about how they're made, they're really just blended, pulverized with water, right?
Yeah.
And then filtered, aka stripped of the fiber, stripped of the protein, etc. It's a lot like traditional juice when you think about it, right? Like an apple juice has way less fiber. It's negligible compared to an apple sauce, right? So I have for you a whole food plant-based milk where there is no filtering. You just blend the crap out of it so it's nice and creamy.
Yeah.
And you can use it as a milk. You can use it as a creamer if you want to add less water. So we'll be demoing that here in a little bit, and of course posting the recipe.
Ooh, that'll be exciting.
Great. So Rip,
Yeah.
in conclusion, what is the tastiest alternative milk? And of course, this is a matter of personal preference, but what do you guys typically drink in your household?
We do the Pacific brand.
Okay.
We do the Pacific brand. We just, when you and Evan brought to our attention what was going on, we are now also doing the reduced sugar Pacific, which you have it right there.
I do. It has 80% less sugar than their original, probably because they're adding less
Enzymes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's pretty good? It's pretty good? Tasty?
It is, although you can definitely tell the difference.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up and try it.
Yeah. But my kids, our 3 kids, you can just tell. I mean, you can just tell it's that much more watery.
Yes, yeah. It's a little bit watery.
But no, we had and I'm not exaggerating, we had $100 a month Pacific oat milk habit.
Budget. Yeah.
That was going on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was hardcore.
It's very sweet. This is surprisingly sweet actually for only having 4 grams or 3 grams of added sugars.
Will you hit me with some of that?
Yeah, I'm impressed. This is my first time trying it. It's actually delicious.
Okay, there you go.
And I think it would go great with some of our granolas. I'm gonna sample that.
No, I agree.
It's delicious.
That is nice.
Good option. So wow, Pacific Foods. Thank you for that option.
Yeah.
So I would say, if somebody asked me, what is the tastiest alternative milk, I would say it depends on the application. For drinking, I love oat milk. I think it's the closest to a traditional milk. I think Oatly takes the top spot, but this Pacific Foods brand is giving it a run for its money. If I was eating it with something like cereals or granolas, I would opt for something without the sugar and the enzymes. I'd go for something like an almond milk or a cashew milk. Usually nut flavors complement whatever cereal you're having, right? Something really mild. And if I was doing something where I was making a recipe that required it, or baking, or putting it in a smoothie, I would try to find a really mild soy. Again, it's got some protein, it's got some good fats in there.
It's also creamy.
It's really creamy. It's delicious. As long as that soy is not overpowering, you can have some pretty pungent soy milks.
I know. On Sundays, which is the day that we always do pancakes or waffles, I always use either soy milk or oat milk in our waffles and pancakes, and we adore them.
Yep. So is that what ranks? You think they're the tastiest? The soy milk, the oat milks, and the soy milks?
That's what we have in our house more than anything.
Yeah.
Anything else.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're about to wrap up here. We can do a quick demo.
No, what about, before you go on, because I noticed there is something here. So for those people, those diehard people that need something in their coffee, they're not following the 7-day rescue protocol where we're not adding creamers or sugars to our coffees. What do you recommend for that barista?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's really hard to find a creamer that doesn't have extra oil because, again, how do you get that creamy mouthfeel? You add oil.
Yeah.
Well, our lovely brand Elmhurst has done a oat creamer that actually just uses the cream from blended hemp seeds. So again, super clean. It's an oat hemp blend. You don't get that super hempy taste that you were talking about. It's very mild. So this would be my recommendation. Or I'd recommend the whole food plant-based creamer that we're gonna make here in a little bit.
Excellent. All right, Jess, I think we're back. What kind of a plant-based milk are you gonna show us?
So today we will do a unfiltered pumpkin and hemp seed blend that can be used in cereals. You can add less water and make it a coffee creamer. So a really great option. But again, what I love about this is you're not losing any of the fiber. You're not losing any of the protein. You're just blending up some nuts and some water.
I like it.
Great.
Can't wait to try it.
Yeah, I'm excited. So what we've got here in the blender is 6 cups of chilled filtered water. I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup pumpkin seeds. Actually, I'll let you do that if you don't mind. It can be a heavy-handed quarter. And then while you're doing that, I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of shelled hemp seeds. Okay. 1. 2. All right, and then I like for my milks to be just a little bit sweet. I'm gonna add in 2 pitted medjool dates. Ooh. You could do just 1 if you wanted to, but I using it for coffee, so I want it to be a little bit sweeter.
Yeah.
And then, I always talk about it. I'm just going to put in a pinch of salt just to really set off those flavors. There we go, just a little bit. And if you wanted to do a vanilla version, you could use a little bit of vanilla extract, but it's not necessary. I'm just going to put a small, maybe a half teaspoon in there.
Perfect.
Just to give it some flavor. And then you got the tamper. You're gonna hold on to it tight.
Yeah. I got it.
All right.
I got
I
it.
trust you. I trust you. Got some expensive equipment here.
Yeah.
And then we are going to blend it at high speed until creamy.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
Give it all she's got, Scotty.
All right. Really putting this Vitamix to the test here.
So when the Vitamix is on high, you can't actually adjust it from 1 to 10, just on low?
Yes. High just means high.
Oh,
Yep.
Interesting.
So
Well,
you can.
You gave it the higher power right there.
We gave it the higher power. Yes, good job. And I would say, one thing I forgot to do in the beginning is if you want to blend the nuts and seeds first before adding the water, that assures that you'll get a really, really blended type texture.
Yeah.
So you can see with this, there's a little bit of particulates kind of floating to the bottom, but they're going to be so small you're not going to be able to taste
We're a
them.
fan of particulates.
Yes, we are. All right, so where'd those granolas go? I'm gonna toss those out so we can sample. Do you want oatmeal raisin or do you want tahini chocolate chip
No,
cookie?
tahini chocolate chip cookie.
Really? Oh, speak for yourself.
Yeah. So am I putting this in here, you think, a little bit?
Yeah, sure. You got a spoon?
That's all right. I'll drink it.
You're gonna drink it? Okay.
All right.
All right.
You want to do it? You
I'll
want me
let
to?
you do it. I'll let
All right.
you do it. All right, you can pour me some in here.
Hello.
It's nice and frothy. You see all those bubbles on the top?
It certainly has a beautiful
Isn't that great?
Beautiful color.
Take some, thank you.
Do you have anything in there?
I'm gonna just pop the granola with it.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, hey,
All right, cheers. Thanks, Rip.
here's to the higher power. Oh yeah,
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
It's
surprising.
pretty darn good.
it's actually so much better than I ever thought.
Really? And again, so simple. Just pumpkin seeds and hemp seeds. They blend up so well. Love it. With granola. Great combination.
Man, guilt-free decadence right there.
We will post the recipe for this and the corn milk in the show notes.
Jess, thank you.
You're welcome, Rip.
Fabulous job with doing your due diligence and research on all things plant-based milks.
My pleasure, Rip. This was another great episode. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.